You sat down because you were tired, not sleepy, not bored. The other kind of tired. The kind that builds slowly across a week and settles somewhere in your chest by Friday evening. The kind that a nap doesn't touch. And so you opened a game. And somewhere in the first 10 minutes, without announcing itself, without making a speech about it, something shifted. The noise went quiet. The list in your head stopped running. And you were simply there, in a world that asked nothing of you except your attention. You called it switching off. But here's the strange thing. You weren't switching off at all. That's what we're exploring today. The modern world has a very specific idea of what rest looks like. It looks like stillness, like absence, like lying on a sofa doing nothing, or sitting in a garden with your eyes closed. The assumption is that your brain needs to stop, that rest is the opposite of activity, and that the only way to recover is to subtract as much as possible from your experience. But neuroscience has been quietly dismantling that idea for years. Because when your brain goes truly still, when there's nothing to engage with, nothing gently pulling your attention forward, it doesn't rest. It turns inward. And what it finds there isn't peace. It finds the unfinished, the unresolved, the long list of everything you haven't dealt with yet. Real rest, the kind that actually restores, requires something different. It requires what researchers call engaged attention. A state where your mind is gently occupied, not with pressure or performance, but with something absorbing enough to crowd out the noise. And for millions of people, without ever using that language, that's exactly what a good game provides. Not escape, not avoidance, a different kind of present. Think about the last time you played a game and looked up to find that an hour had passed. You weren't aware of time moving. You weren't monitoring yourself. You weren't calculating whether you were enjoying it enough to justify the time spent. You were simply in it, present in a way that most of daily life never allows. Psychologists have a name for this state: flow. It was first described by researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who spent decades studying what makes human beings feel most alive, most focused, most genuinely themselves. And what he found was this: the moments people remember as their best, their most fulfilling, their most deeply satisfying, are almost never the moments of pure rest or passive consumption. They are the moments of engaged absorption. When the challenge is just right. When the feedback is immediate. When time disappears because you are fully occupied with something that matches your capacity. Quiet games, the slow ones, the ones without scoreboards or time pressure, the ones that let you build at your own pace, create this state almost by design. And after 40, something changes in how you experience it. The younger version of you needed stimulation, needed the game to come at you, fast, loud, escalating. The reward had to arrive quickly, or the attention wandered. But the version of you that exists now has learned something the younger version hadn't yet. That the best things take longer than expected. That slow progress is still progress. That a world worth inhabiting is one that reveals itself gradually, not all at once. And so the slower games, the builders, the tillers, the quiet simulations, don't feel too slow anymore. They feel exactly right. Because you are exactly right for them. But here's the thing, the world doesn't see it that way. And that friction between what gaming actually does and what the world says it does is worth sitting with. There is a specific guilt that older gamers carry. You know the one. It arrives in the middle of a perfectly good evening, right around the second hour. The voice that reminds you of the other things you could be doing. The productive things, the responsible things. The voice that calls what you're doing a luxury you haven't earned, or worse, a waste. That voice isn't telling you the truth. Think about what you actually did with the last 2 hours you spent scrolling. Not choosing, scrolling. Moving from one piece of content to the next without intention, without engagement, without anything genuinely landing. The modern term for it is doom scrolling, and it's not rest. It is the opposite of rest. It is your attention being consumed, piece by piece, by content designed to hold you just long enough to reach the next one, and then release you, slightly emptier than before. Now think about those 2 hours in a game. You made decisions. You built something. You absorbed feedback and adjusted. You were present in a world that rewarded your attention with visible, tangible progress. You ended the session with something you didn't have at the start. A settlement one road longer, a valley one bridge closer to completion. A problem solved with a solution that was entirely yours. That is not waste, that is recovery. And the guilt you carry about it is not a signal that something is wrong with what you're doing. It is a signal that you have absorbed a very old and very unhelpful idea about what rest is supposed to look like. Rest that restores you is rest worth taking seriously. And that's fine. If this is something you felt, that low-level guilt about the hours you spend in a game, subscribe to the channel. This is exactly the kind of thing we explore here, slowly and without rush. Here's what genuinely restorative rest looks like, based on how the brain actually functions. It is active, not passive. It occupies your attention gently, without overwhelming it. It has a clear feedback loop, small actions, visible results. It removes the background noise of your real life without replacing it with new noise. And it ends with a feeling not of time lost, but of something, however small, completed. You already know this feeling. You've had it after a good session with a game that fits you well. Not the frenetic ones, not the ones designed to manufacture urgency and keep your stress response activated for hours. The ones that move at your pace. The ones that trust you to find your own rhythm. Those games are doing something that a holiday often fails to do, because a holiday removes you from the pressures of daily life, but it doesn't give your brain anything to gently hold. You are suddenly in a new place, with unstructured time, and your mind, unmoored from its routines, often turns back to exactly the things you were trying to escape. A good game gives you structure without pressure, progress without performance, a world with its own internal logic, clean and comprehensible, where your choices matter and the feedback is immediate and honest. What if we treated real life the same way? What if rest wasn't the absence of engagement, but the presence of the right kind? Gentle, chosen, yours. After 40, you've earned the right to know what actually works for you. Not what the productivity podcasts say should work. Not what looks like rest from the outside. What genuinely restores you. What sends you back into the week with more than you started with. For a great many people, the answer involves a screen, a quiet world, and an hour or two of unhurried building. And that isn't a guilty pleasure. That's a tool. So what is a gaming session really? Not the loud ones, not the competitive ones, the ones you choose on a Friday evening when the week has cost you something and you need to find your way back to yourself. It is a restoration ritual. It is your mind finding a space where the demands are clear, the progress is visible, and the noise, for a few hours, simply does not reach you. Where the version of you that exists beyond the job title and the inbox and the responsibilities can sit quietly and build something that belongs only to you. That isn't trivial. In a world that monetizes your attention at every turn, choosing where to put it, deliberately, without guilt, is one of the most important things you can do for your own well-being. Games don't just entertain us. They remind us of something we knew as children, but slowly forgot, that being genuinely absorbed in something is not the same as being distracted by it. That presence has value. That the hours you spend fully inside an experience, not half watching, not half scrolling, but truly there, are the hours that restore. The world will keep telling you that rest looks like stillness and productivity looks like output. You know better than that now. You've always known it. The next time you open a game at the end of a long week and the voice arrives right on schedule with its familiar list of things you should be doing instead, let it finish and then stay anyway. You're not switching off. You're finding your way back. See you in the next one.